Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to our lesson review. This is now the overview of our lesson for this week. And I'd like to welcome you to our family ministry, Connecting People to God. This is Pastor Silverio Reno that will give the overview of our lesson for this week. And our lesson talks about Sabbath, experiencing and living the character of God. Okay? Sabbath, experiencing and living the character of God. I know that you've been studying this, but I'd like to give you some practical aspect and also an overview of our lesson. I hope that this will inspire us and will help us in our spiritual journey. Think for a while, what's the first thing that God declared as holy? It's so amazing that first thing that God declared as holy is not a place, is not a shrine, is not a thing, but it is a block of time. And the block of time is that 24 hours, and that is in the seventh day. So what is the first thing that God declared holy? It's the Sabbath. And maybe you'll be asking why God instituted the Sabbath. Why God asked us to keep the Sabbath holy. We could read as Genesis chapter 2 verses 1 and 3. It is because God wanted us to know that He is our Creator. So it's a memorial of His creation. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, and the sea, and all that is in them. As the explanation in Exodus chapter 20 verse 11. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. And in verse 8, and in verse 11, He has given the reason. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth and the sea, and all that is in them. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Another one is a sign of our relationship with God. As recorded in Ezekiel 20:20, hallow my Sabbaths, and they will be sign between me and you. And it is also for us to have rest. Exodus chapter 20 verse 8, remember the Sabbath day to keep it. 6 days thou shalt labor and do all thy work, but the Sabbath day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. And these are the reasons why God is asking us to keep the Sabbath. Now the question, are you enjoying Sabbath? When Sabbath comes, are you happy? And usually we say, happy Sabbath day. We expect that we'll be happy when Sabbath comes. Do you find meaning in your Sabbath keeping? Unfortunately, some are not happy. I could remember when I was working in a dormitory, and I had a hard time telling our young people, okay, you wake up early, prepare to come to church. It's now a celebration. It's Sabbath. But many just wanted to sleep. And they long forward for sunset. When Friday, they are not happy when it's already sunset and they have still activities. And they just bargain, especially during Sabbath. Still, the sun has not set yet, but they wanted to do something. That is some of the attitude. But for me, there was a time that I feel so bored. But when I learn about the meaning of the Sabbath keeping, I am so happy. I really anticipate the coming of the Sabbath. So remember, my friends, that the first thing that God declared to be holy is not a place, it's not a shrine, it's not a thing, but it is a block of time. Why? Because that block of time will come to you. Wherever you live It will come to you. The seventh day will come to you. You live in America, in United States, you live in the Philippines, you live in some other countries, that block of time will come to you. And that's the reason why the first thing that God blessed and made it holy is the block of time. Now, our lesson for this week says that experiencing and living the character of God. I'd like to go back to my question. Are you happy when Sabbath comes? Do you find meaning in your Sabbath keeping? What's your attitude towards Sabbath? Is it something that dragged you? Or you feel that it's just a requirement? So we will be talking for this week about how to find meaning in your Sabbath keeping. Finding meaning in your Sabbath keeping. What should be done when Sabbath comes? It's really a time of learning and a time to experience the presence of God. When you have that, you could find meaning in the celebration of the Sabbath. So how to find meaning in your Sabbath keeping? In our discussion, number 1, if you want to have meaning, to find meaning in the Sabbath keeping, one is you should, during Sabbath, you should astonish yourself. Astonish yourself. Adam and Eve, the first day that Adam and Eve lived, they were created in the 6th day. And the first thing that they are alive after creation, the first experience is the experience of the Sabbath. And I could just imagine that when Sabbath comes and Adam and Eve were strolling in the Garden of Eden, and they have the orientation about their Creator and the creation. And I could just imagine when they saw animals, when they saw beautiful flowers, and they saw the beauty of the creation, and they had fellowship with their Creator, and they were so astonished. They're really so excited, and they enjoyed. So if you want that your Sabbath has meaning, Sabbath day is not only a time for us to rest. It's not only a time that we stop working because we are told to do so, but it is for us a time for education and personal development. So again, I'd like to repeat, Sabbath not only a day of rest, but an opportunity for education and personal development. Remember that the first day that Adam and Eve were alive was the experience of Sabbath. So we can read that in Genesis 1:27 and Genesis 2:1-3. Astonish yourself about God. Sabbath is a time for us to learn more of the God that created us, of God who created us, God who sustains us. And we could discover, we should experience for the whole day, for the 24 hours that the Lord has given us solely to experience, that we will be astonished about His love and His mercy and His creative power. Adam and Eve had given an opportunity to celebrate the Sabbath on the first day, and they were alive. And that opportunity to learn more of their Creator and His creation. They were astonished of the character of God and the beauty of creation. Thus, friends, Sabbath for us is not only time to rest, but time to learn about God and His character. So if you want to find meaning in the celebration of the Sabbath, make Sabbath as a learning experience. Make Sabbath to discover more about God. Make Sabbath to discover His mercy and His love to you. Yes, we go to church. And sometimes we stroll in nature. for us to be astonished about the God that we are serving. If you're Sabbath keeping, if you're going to church, it's just for the sake of going to church, and you are not astonished by the sermons and by the reminders, then you could not find meaning in your Sabbath keeping. So that's the first thing. If you want to find meaning in your Sabbath keeping, first, make Sabbath an opportunity to learn of His character and to learn and experience God, that you will be astonished of the kind of God that you are worshiping. Another one that I'd like to share to you, if you want to find meaning in your Sabbath keeping, every Sabbath should a time for us to rediscover. When you read Deuteronomy 8:1-20, you can refer to that reference. Deuteronomy 8:1-20. It's a reminder that you should always remember. You should rediscover in your experience. Much more, you have given the block of time solely for God. You should rediscover. You should remind yourself of the mercy and the love of God. You should rediscover your identity. So Sabbath is a time for us to remind us, to rediscover that we are special people of God, that you are created, a miracle by God. Educational activities for His people during the time of Moses. You know the story about the manna. The manna that God supplied him food to eat every day. And the miracle there is something that they discover, is that the importance of the Sabbath. Why? Because every day they should pick manna good for that day. And some really try to not to obey the instruction, and they found that the manna got rotten. So every day they pick, the instruction was, get only good for that day. But during Friday, you could double it. And no more picking of manna during Sabbath. By that kind of illustration, but that kind of experience, they rediscover the importance of the Sabbath. They rediscover that they are special people of God. They rediscover that their life has meaning, that they are not just by accident, but they are created by God, that they are very special. So we keep the Sabbath to help us to be reminded that we are not by accident, that we are not, we just didn't exist because of evolution or something, but because there is God. So Sabbath, for us to have meaning in our Sabbath keeping, we should make it a time to find meaning in Sabbath by activities that can help you rediscover that you are special, that can help you rediscover that there is God who sustains you. So educational activities for His people during the time of Moses, lesson about manna is the way to educate them that they are special people. God is the sustainer, giving them enough every day. Sabbath, rediscovery that He gives you blessing. Another thing that we need to remember, if you want to find meaning in your Sabbath keeping, Sabbath is not just going the routine of worship. Your priority is not what you please in your activities. It is delighting in learning the character of God and purpose of God, and living the character and purposes of God in our relationship to others. Sabbath is a time for us not just doing the routine worship, but by renewing commitment to the Sabbath, by reminding that they should keep on doing, that they should not keep on doing what they please, worship as formality and losing their meaning, but that Sabbath keeping should be very meaningful. So in Isaiah 58:13 and 14, and then there is a promise that when you delight in keeping the Sabbath, then there is a promise of prosperity. So Sabbath is not just going to the routine. Check your priority. When you have correct Sabbath keeping, then it's not just a formality. You are fasting, you are doing something. But the true fasting is your relationship with others and also with the true keeping of the Sabbath. Then, to find meaning in our Sabbath keeping, we should check your mind and set about the Sabbath. It is not just series of don'ts. It is not putting barricade for us to have hard time. But it was made for us to be of help, to be happy. Mark 2:27 and 28 and Mark 3-4. It was made unique opportunity for people to learn about the character of God. Opportunity to witness that God values His creation. And it's a day for us to be, especially that we should value people, that because we are valued by God, we are reminded that we are created by God, and we could also share that to our community. And during Sabbath, take note of this, friends. During Sabbath, the question is not, what can't we do? What things that we cannot do during Sabbath? That's not the question. But the question should be, what God has freed us from doing, releasing us from doing, what God has released us. If you are being enslaved by your livelihood, God released you to that. Okay? And through Sabbath keeping, result of a renewed life because of our time learning and experiencing God. So, back to the overall view of the Sabbath. Sabbath is instituted by God, and the first thing that He declared as holy is not a thing, it's not a shrine, but it is a block of time, the seventh day. And it should be very meaningful for us. And for us to find meaning of the Sabbath, we should take the block of time solely for God and spend it learning and experiencing His character and spending it to astonish us about His love. It should be spent in rediscovering that we are being loved by God and sustained by God. So Sabbath keeping, Sabbath is a reminder for us that there is God who created us. Summarizing this all, practical application of our lesson for this week, Sabbath keeping is not the end but means. Sabbath keepers should reflect the character of God, for they have regular time experiencing God. Sabbath is not only a day of rest, but means of education and personal development. The first day that Adam and Eve was alive, they had the Sabbath to orient themselves about God and His creation. And God re-emphasized the importance of the Sabbath by the way He has given manna during the time of Moses. So Sabbath was not given only during the time of Moses, but it was a rediscovery. It was a reminder that they are very special people. And things related to food stay lingering in their mind. That's why manna was used by God in the reminder about the Sabbath. And in Isaiah 58, teaches that Christianity is not mere formality, but should put into action one's learning. So friends, Sabbath keeping is not the set of don'ts, but what God has freed us from doing. And Sabbath enables us to learn more about God's character. So that's the overall view of our lesson for this week. I hope that you find meaning in your Sabbath keeping. I hope that you enjoy Sabbath. And in my experience, when I discover about this, that making Sabbath as a time for me to be astonished It's time for me spending the time really to learn about God and always rediscovering, always reminding myself that I am specially, wonderfully made, and there is a creator. And also just not making the Sabbath as formality, not doing my what I please, but following and make the Sabbath as a delight, and also sharing what I learned to community, and striking the balance, especially in Sabbath keeping, that is not just a set of don'ts and do's. So, Sabbath is very important, and you'll find meaning, especially in your keeping of the Sabbath. Now, things to ponder. I'd like to invite you to ponder, especially in relation to our study. You know, friends, today, so many people wander without purpose, without hope, without God, in an existence without promise or a future. They were thinking that life has no meaning, and they could not answer where did it come from. God wants every human to know that he or she is not meaningless, but that each of us came directly from Him, made in His image, sons and daughters of the King of the universe. And that is why He set aside a special time every seventh day to help remind us, to help experience His presence, experience His love, and to help us live the character of God. Only by keeping the Sabbath ourselves can we experience how it enhances our relationship with Jesus. Again, I'd like to repeat, only by keeping the Sabbath ourselves can we experience how it enhances our relationship with Jesus. Only by keeping the Sabbath ourselves can we experience the joy and wonder of the day. And only by keeping the Sabbath can we truly understand the Lord's words that the Sabbath was made for a man and not man for the Sabbath. And that's the very memory text that we have during this week. Shall we recite it together? The Sabbath was made for a man, and not man for the Sabbath. Therefore the Son of Man is also Lord of the Sabbath. This is in Mark 2:27-28. Ponder upon this. Only by keeping the Sabbath. No other day, that's ourselves. Only by keeping the Sabbath ourselves can we experience how it enhances our relationship with Jesus. Only by keeping the Sabbath ourselves can we experience the joy and wonder of the day, that we will be astonished, we could strike the balance. Only by keeping the Sabbath that we can truly understand what Jesus said, for the Sabbath was made for a man and not man for the Sabbath. I hope that we find meaning in our Sabbath keeping. It is not something for us to hurdle, for us that God has given for us to hurdle so that we'll have hard time for salvation. God just loves us, and He wants us to be saved, and He wants us to enjoy. He wants us to stay connected with us, and Sabbath was instituted for us to remind us and to astonish us and to experience the character and to have a living experience with Jesus Christ and learn about the character of God and share it to others. May the Lord God bless each one of us, and I hope that you are blessed with our study for this week. Thank you very much for joining. This is your friend, Pastor Silverio Reyno.
Show